Just about. Ding. We're recording.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right. So today it's environmental emergencies and submersion, and we'll cover that because I don't see too many diving emergencies out here. People are very safe when they go diving, deep water diving out here in El Paso. You know that Rio Grande, that's a really deep thing, but people are always cautious. Most people are. So thankfully we don't get a lot of that. But environmental emergencies. So before we start using our imaginations, before I make you all pieces of meat, oh, by the way, all of you are going to be my pieces of meat today. Y'all are like, huh? I see some people scratching their heads. Come on, people. I want to see more people on camera. Except for my ugly mug. I got 11 people on. It's funner when there's more.
I had to use my daughter's computer today and the camera's broken. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Although I do miss seeing what kind of hairstyle you have today.
It is different.
See? And you're depriving me of that. That's okay. I can wait till Friday. So let's talk about thermal regulation. In other words, temperature regulation. Now, what is what is the thermometer of the brain?
Hypothalamus.
I remember learning this in 7th grade life science.
The hypothalamus.
The hypothalamus, yes. The hypothalamus. All right, so it receives signals from the body. Like I could see some people already bungling up because their hypothalamus is saying, hey, I'm getting a little cold here. We need to warm up. Yes, I could see you, ma'am. Getting a little cold. Yeah, it's like in the low 40s now, isn't it? Oh, actually, damn, it's the high 30s. My watch is saying 37. And I'm out of cigarettes, so I won't be able to go outside and enjoy the nice cold air. Unless I go to the store for a curfew. And actually, we can go out after curfew for essentials. And I could say cigarettes are essential. So. All right. And that brings us to the next point. Remember when we talked about pathophysiology and we had baroreceptors and chemoreceptors, right? Well, guess what? There's also receptors for temperature. So what do you think we call those receptors?
Thermoreceptors.
Thermoreceptors, yes. And so I'm not going to quiz you on this, but it's good information to know. There's central thermoreceptors and peripheral nerve receptors, or thermoreceptors. The central are kind of detecting the temperature of the core. They're located throughout the body in the bloodstream. So that blood is getting a little cold. Bien friolento. I'm not. I love the cold. I spent the very, very formative years of my life in Albuquerque. From when I was 6 months old in 1972 till about the middle of 75. So I grew up in that cold temperature. I loved it. And I moved back down to the desert of Mexico. And then I moved to Southern California after that. So I was missing the cold weather. I love it here. Then the peripheral thermoreceptors, which are really on the skin, the extremities, they detect that temperature. So you have the signals that are sending this, that are getting sent to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus, because we know that the body needs to do what it can to take care of itself. And so the body is going to try to keep itself warm. What's that target temperature?
.6.
98.6 Fahrenheit. What is it Celsius?
37 Celsius.
37. Yep. So those numbers need to be maintained, or that number, either 37 Celsius or 98.6, needs to be maintained by the body. And because we know the body's going to do what it can to take care of itself, if it's getting too hot, the blood vessels will do what? Open up, right? They'll open up to allow more blood to go through to be able to deliver it to the tissue and then perspire to cool itself down. So it's sending out to the surface to let it out. If it's too cold, what are those blood vessels going to do? Constrict, vasoconstrict, good. And so what that's doing, number one, it's trying to keep that warm blood in the core. Because we know that the most important organs are in the core of the body, the brain and the heart, right? The liver, the kidneys, it's in the core. So guys, guess what? That part, the body doesn't give a lot of importance to it, so that's why you have shrinkage. And if you remember back from elementary school also, what happens to the testes when it's cold? Nope, they go up inside you. Because the body, at least the body's trying to take care of something. And that's important to pass on your DNA, right? Because actually sperm is very susceptible to changes in temperature. That's why they're saying if you're trying to conceive, don't wear tidy whities. You want to wear boxers. Something loose fitting so it doesn't constrict. See how important temperature is? All right. If the body gets too hot, the cells aren't going to function properly. If the cells get too cold, they're not going to function properly. You see the importance of maintaining that 98.6. We want the body to be working normal. So remember that. Now, what's the most common way that we create heat?
Breathing?
No, we don't create heat by, excuse me, by breathing.
Metabolism.
By metabolism. When we breathe, we're actually letting go of heat. And we'll talk about and I do quiz you, and I don't remember about testing you, but I do quiz you on that concept. So I'll get to it in a minute. All right, so metabolism creates heat. If the body temperature drops, what happens to those cellular processes? Remember, I just mentioned it a bit ago, a minute ago.
Say the question again, Luke.
If the body temperature drops, what happens to that metabolism? Nope. Goes down. Because remember, it's going to affect the cell process. So it's cold, it's not going to be able to flow and create a lot of energy. The way it does is by shivering. Shivering creates heat. And there's less people on camera. And I was so excited. Out of 31, I used to have like 30 on, and now it's like,
Mine's not working.
huh?
Mine's not working.
You too?
Like, I can't see anything, and like where my little squares where I usually see myself, it's just dark. I can't see anything.
Have you changed your settings?
No, I don't mess with it.
Okay.
I could just hear you, but I'm just like, yeah. I can't see anything though.
Yeah, because I always see when your little ones come in and say hi and all that stuff. And bye.
I can't see anything. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So, you're funny. So, by shivering, that's going to help create heat. And the other thing is, because of the blood vessels constricting, it's keeping more of that blood, warmer blood inside, but it's still losing more heat than it can generate. All right. So we talked about the skin. The pores open up to release heat, and we perspire to cool down. So as the wind blows, it evaporates that. When it's cold, then the blood vessels, I'm sorry, the skin constricts or closes off the pores, so there's not a lot of heat getting out. Remember, it's trying to keep in the heat. And I'm going to start introducing the next topic, but somebody mentioned about breathing. And when we breathe, when we exhale, we're also creating evaporation. Our warm breath goes out, cooling us down. One of the dangers is we're also letting out heat. Now, one of the ways we burn calories is that when we breathe through our nose, the air goes up into our nostrils and it goes to the sides. And I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, there's like 3 lines in the nostrils, or not in the nostrils, like behind the septum. They're called nasal turbinates. They're like passageways. So the air is guided in through those passages or channels, and that helps humidify and warm up the air. Otherwise, our lungs would be freezing cold. It would be bringing down our temperature. So those turbinates help humidify and warm up the air that we breathe. So that's kind of a good thing, but it could be a bad thing. All right. So as we move from that, we're going to get to the concepts of how we lose heat. And I'm hoping my fire guys, well, right now I see fire guy with his red headphones. What are the methods of heat loss? And I already gave you guys one. That's evaporation. What's the other one? Actually, I gave you two. Evaporation and respiration. What was that?
Radiation.
Radiation. All right. Tell me about radiation.
Heat transfer from surface to surface.
All right. But it's really without contact. Think about sitting at a campfire. So Sharon, since you're cold, imagine sitting at a campfire. And you got your bonbons, your marshmallows. And you put them on a stick and you're right there roasting them and then eating them right off that stick. And here comes another marshmallow. And haven't you guys found, for those of you who've been in front of a fire pit, putting your hands out and and you turn your back to it and you warm up your butt too, your back, because it's facing that cold air. Are you touching the fire? No, but are you getting toasty? Yeah, that's radiation, that radiant heat. Or even for some of you guys and gals, what about when you're when you're grilling? The Californian in me almost came out. I was gonna say when you barbecue, and I know that's the wrong phrase out here. When you grill, you open up the lid, and don't you get that? Or even from a stove, you open up that stove door. I'm sorry, not stove, oven door. Sorry, that oven door, and you get that rush of air coming right at you. That's radiant heat. All right, what's another method? I just kind of referred to it.
Convection.
Convection. What is convection?
Like the wind?
Well, how so?
Because it has immediate contact with your skin.
Okay. So in a way, you're warming up the area around you, right? As that air is circulating. Although this is kind of reverse, but your oven, what kind of oven is it?
Convection.
A convection oven. Because it heats up the air around the stuff, and as it comes in contact with the food, it's increasing the temperature of that food and cooking it. So in a way, it's reversed, but our warm skin coming in contact with that cooler air, it's warming up the air. So we're getting rid of that heat. But now if it's too cold, like you go outside in shorts, flip-flops, and a tank top, like people from Canada, not Canada, Alaska, they come out here right now, it's 37 degrees, and they're flip-flops and shorts. It's like, this is cold? Yeah, right. This is like an everyday high for them. Convection. What about conduction?
Yes.
Direct contact.
Yeah, so when you're cold and you snuggle up to your fire buddy. Just kidding, Gabe. And Jesus. Nothing but. Try to stay warm. So you guys with significant others, when it's cold, don't you snuggle up with them? Try to stay warm? Gabe's like, nope. Oh, hell no.
Say that's my little cousin. Every time she stays over, she ends up all up on me. I gotta push her off the damn bed.
Try to stay warm? That's the way, conduction. Or if you put your hand on something, have you ever done that experiment? You put your hand on like a chalkboard or whiteboard or a wall, and then you look at it through a thermal imager, and you see that handprint. Even a minute later, you transferred heat onto that object. Okay. So that's conduction. So again, I will test you on that stuff, on the methods of heat transfer. Convection, conduction, radiation, evaporation, and respiration. Now, understand this. The most common place that we lose heat from is the top of our head. I'm trying to see who else is bald besides me. So I guess I'll just use me. You see how I'm lucky here? See? All that? I don't have hair to keep heat in, so I get cold easy now. Whereas like Juan, looking at his full head of hair, you stay kind of toasty, don't you? I'm jealous. Next time I see you, I'm gonna knock you out with some Haldol, and I'm gonna shave your head bald, and I'm gonna make a wig for me. Just guys, don't question anything, okay? Don't ask him why he's bald. I want you guys to remember that the extremes in age, and this is important, you will be tested over and over on this. The extremes in age are very susceptible to environmental emergencies. For kids, two big reasons. They can't regulate their temperature very well, but the biggest thing is they have greater surface area, proportionally, of course, but still greater surface area. So they're more susceptible to environmental emergencies. And for the elderly, remember we talked about those those signals from the thermoreceptors going to the hypothalamus? Well, those are delayed. They're slowed down. So it takes a lot longer to get to the brain. So they might not feel the fact that they are hot or cold. And they also lose body fat as they get older. So there's a higher incidence of environmental emergencies. All right. So we were talking about shivering to create heat. First off, and I'm going to preface this next discussion on the fact that Jack was stupid. He deserved to die because he was stupid. Who am I talking about?
Titanic.
Yep. Yeah, Jesse mouthed Titanic. Yep. Jack was stupid. He could have fit on that. I don't care if she was hot. Freaking save yourself. Throw her ass off. Keeping that necklace. Jeez, now you know what her motive was. Don't care if she's hot. Preservation, self-preservation, that's what's important. When the body temperature goes below 95 degrees, this is a very important distinction. Once the body temperature goes below 95 degrees, then we get into hypothermia. And the body stops shivering.
What temperature is that?
What was that?
What temperature was it again?
95. Once the body drops below 95, the shivering stops. What else? All right, here's the other thing that happens. Have you ever, swimming pool, maybe, especially if it's not a heated pool. At the beach, most definitely. And give me a sec. Hey, Paula, I'm about to send you a message.
Okay.
I just gotta wait a minute because I unfortunately lost somebody a few months ago. At first, she was a coworker, then she became my employee, she became a friend, and unfortunately, she died in a water emergency. And what happened was she fell into a body of water. The problem with that body of water is it's cold. It was like in the low 60s. Here's what happens. Again, have you been to the beach and you go right into the water? Or even a swimming pool. If you haven't been to a beach, if you've been to a swimming pool, you go in there and it's freezing cold, or it feels like freezing cold, right? So what do? You get out. And it's always better to see me do this in live, but I can't. So I'll just have you picture it because I'm sure you have done it. And it's freaking cold, right? So what do? You run out, right? You're like, I'm not going to be defeated. So you slowly get to the edge and you put like your big toe in, right? And you're like waiting for your toe to get comfortable. And then you put the other toes. Okay. Okay. And then your foot goes in there. Your other foot goes in. And then your ankles and your legs. I'm sorry. Yeah, your legs, your knees. And you more and more of you goes in, right? It's like, it's warm. In a way, you are warming up the water around you. But here's the reality. Your body is getting acclimated to that lower temperature. the lower it goes, the faster your body temperature drops. Remember, 95 degrees is when the body stops shivering and you're hypothermia. You go below 90, you could be losing consciousness. And your nerve impulses don't work as good. They're not firing off. You can't control yourself. Eventually, you just lay there. That's what happened to Jack. How cold was that water in the Atlantic? In the 30s? His body got acclimated to that temperature in a matter of 2-3 minutes. At 68, 65, whatever, let's just say 65, give or take. Body gets acclimated. It takes a little bit longer, but eventually your muscles start to tense up, your nerve impulses slow down, you lose consciousness. And that's the unfortunate thing that happened to her. Okay. So what happens in a cold water emergency? And we'll talk more about that later, and I won't reference her, but I just wanted to kind of put perspective on it for everybody. Cold is not good. It's great cuddle weather, but when you're inside. All right. I'm not going to make you my pieces of meat yet.
Me and my daughter did a polar bear challenge last year.
Yeah, but how long were you in the water? And how far out were you?
My backyard, I jumped into about 6 feet, fully submerged, fully clothed, with the water temperature 41 degrees.
How long were you in there in the water total?
Maybe 20 seconds.
Exactly.
It hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's a shock to the body. Here's another danger or something like that. If you get your face wet. What was that? Okay. If you get your face wet, you stimulate the vagus nerve. We call that a vasovagal reaction. And it's called the mammalian diving reflex. Have you ever splashed cold water in your face? Or again, you jump into a cold pool, and as soon as your face hit the water, you kind of gasp? Do you know that it only takes a teaspoon of water to drown you? You might say, how's that going to drown you? Don't your lungs have to fill up with water? No, they don't. That exact reflex, the mammalian diving reflex, with a teaspoon of water will cause you to have that reflex, that reaction, and cause a laryngeal spasm. Your throat closes up, no air is going in.
Well, now you made me feel dumb.
No, not meant to.
Yeah, I did it too in Chicago.
Oh, on Lake Michigan?
Yes, sir.
How long were you in there for, though?
Not even 5 seconds.
Give me just a quick sec. Gosh damn this thing. All right, so so that's kind of submersion water emergencies, but we'll talk more about water emergencies. So yeah, that's what happens, the mammalian diving reflex. Hey Ray, can you send me a private message, please?
Yes, sir. Lou, to your phone or through the messenger?
Phone's easier.
Okay.
All right. All right. So you guys are ready to be my ice cubes? All right. So I'm gonna get this device. Back in the day, before we had the ice makers and the refrigerators, we had little trays. They used to have some that were made out of metal, and they had a frame and stuff, and you did a lever, you lifted it up, and you got the little cubes there. And then they got into the modern age, and they had some that were made out of plastic that you'd put water in them, and you put them in the freezer, and a few hours later you had ice cubes. All right, some of you know what I'm talking about, right, Steve? Nowadays, it's easy. You go to your fridge or the freezer, a dispenser, just put your glass under there and hit the trigger, and you get ice in your cup. Easy. You kids have it easy. You don't know how easy it is compared to how I grew up. And no, I didn't have to go 2 miles just to get a bucket of water. I did have to shower in a cold bathroom with a bucket of hot water next to me and a cup and pour water on me. And I did have to go to an outhouse. I remember what it was like to go to an outhouse.
El rancho.
I was always afraid to fall in. Anyway, so I know you guys know what ice cube trays are. But right now you're the water. And I pour you guys into that ice cube tray. And I put you in the freezer. So what's happening to your molecules? You're water right now. So what's happening to your molecules?
They stop moving.
They stop moving, and they do one more thing.
They expand, no?
Well, we'll get to that.
They solidify.
We'll get to that. They stop moving and they rearrange themselves. And they change form. They go from a liquid to a solid. They solidify. They do. What was the other thing somebody said?
I think they said expand.
And expands. That's one of the things you have to worry about with your pipes in the winter. That water freezes, it expands. Any of you ever have left a Coke in the freezer? In the middle of the night, it explodes, and you're like, what the hell was that? You freak out. And you look around the next morning, you open up your freezer to get something out. It's like, oh shit, the Coke's exploded. Right? That's what's happening. So we know we have that. All right, now you guys are my pieces of meat. And because I love ribeye, you guys are pieces of ribeye. And I got a better deal at Walmart than at Costco for ribeyes. Although I didn't buy them at Costco, it was like $60 for 3 of them. So $20 each. And at Walmart, I got 2 for like $18.50. Yeah, you know, close enough, but hey, $1.50 is $1.50, especially for a ribeye. That was such an awesome ribeye. And the weird thing is I didn't make it on the grill. I made it on the stove, but I used butter to help fry it up, a lot of butter. And so I put that butter juice that was left over, the butter oil, I put it right on top, just like they do at Ruth's Chris. Put it right up on top of that, and it was delicious. And I seasoned it just right. I didn't put any rub or anything. I just kind of put some seasonings and stuff, and that was a delicious steak. So, sorry, my mouth is watering just thinking about the steak. Anyway, so I'll splurge, since some of you think I have a little bit of money. I'll splurge and I'll get those ribeyes at Costco. Or I'm sorry, yeah, Costco. So, but it's only Wednesday, right? So do I really want to spend a lot of time making my ribeye and enjoying it and everything? So what am I going to do to you, my ribeyes? So I took one out and I put it in the fridge to preserve it. But my other 2, again, I don't plan on eating all 3 this weekend, just 1. So I want to save them for a couple weeks down the line.
You gotta freeze them.
I'm going to freeze them. So I just threw you in the freezer. So what's happened to you, my beautiful ribeyes? That should be the class motto. We're ribeyes.
Your metabolism's gonna start to slow, Lou.
Okay. But what else?
You'll go through, I guess, vasoconstriction, and then maybe your blood will start shunting to your
No, but we're
core.
talking about the ribeye that
Okay.
I'm putting in the freezer.
Okay, they meant us, like you're being metaphorical.
But we're going to apply that concept to the body. So yeah, we know we're going to vasoconstrict. Metabolism's going to slow down. Nerve impulses are going to slow down. But I want to know what's happening to the tissue. That's why I'm using a ribeye as an example. That's the tissue.
It's gonna start to like harden or like solidify.
Exactly. So it's going to start getting a little firmer, right? And it starts to crystallize. It starts to firm up. And then we have, so crystallization, firming up. Until eventually it's frozen over and it's hard, right? Okay. And when you touch it, what is it?
Solid.
Solid and
Cold.
you're allowed to
Frozen?
touch it. Huh?
Frozen?
And cold. And cold. So is that really a good thing? No, it's not. All right, so next, let's get away from the meat. And so we mentioned how the nerve impulses slow down, metabolism is slowed down. What's happening to your mental status?
Decreasing.
It's decreasing. Because isn't that because your nerve impulses are slowing down? And your blood vessels are getting constricted? Isn't that also affecting the heart?
Yes.
Okay. So can you see what's happening with hypothermia? It's slowing down, it's hardening up, it's it's preserving the body. So there's a couple things to remember when we have a person that is a cold water submersion. The very first one is they're not dead until they're warm and dead. We need to rewarm them and work them until they are warm enough. And then if we still don't get a change, then we call them. Two, though, with cold water submersion, just like you, the piece of meat, that cold is preserving tissue. And so it does help maintain neurological status. The brain does help protect the brain. The bad thing about cold water and cold emergencies is, remember what we said about the, I can see from a Nestle, it's pretty cold outside. Aren't we trying to, I'm sorry, from that piece of meat, what happened to the tissue in that ribeye? It began to crystallize, right? Think about the heart. What do you think is happening to the heart in this cold environment?
Crystallizing.
It can start crystallizing. So another big thing is we want to make sure that we handle the patient gently. Rough handling, because the crystallized tissue, can cause the patient to go into VFib. It's very, very susceptible. So when using an AD, always follow your protocols. Sometimes they'll say, bless you. Sometimes they'll say that you only defibrillate him once. Some of them will let you do it more. Okay, so always follow your protocols. And I'm not going to test you on something like that because, again, it varies. All right. So I have 8:03. How about back at 8:20? Sound good? All right. I'll see you guys back at 8:20.